The look on Karen's face when I told her she was trespassing on my private lake was worth every penny of the legal fees that followed. Picture this. I'm standing on my dock, pointing at fresh no trespassing signs while HOA President Brenda Hutchinson turns ghost white. Her pontoon boat motor sputters to silence. The smell of lake water and sunscreen hangs heavy in the July air. 20 neighbors watch from the shore as Brenda realizes she's been harassing the actual landowner for months. But here's the kicker. This wasn't just about lake access. Brenda had been planning to hit our community with $3 million in assessments using fake shared waterfront rights. She thought she found the perfect mark when I inherited this property. Boy, was she wrong. What would you do if your HOA tried to steal your private property right in front of your guests? I bet your HOA has tried something just as outrageous. Let me back up and tell you how I accidentally became the target of the most elaborate property scam I've ever seen. My name is Marcus Thornfield, and 6 months ago, I was living a completely different life in Phoenix. Recently divorced, burned out from my civil engineering job, questioning every life choice I'd made since college. Then I got the call that changed everything. My grandfather, Ezra, had passed away, leaving me his entire lakefront estate in Millbrook, Wisconsin. Grandpa Ezra wasn't just any property owner. This man was basically the unofficial mayor of Crystal Lake. He owned 847 acres, including 3 miles of pristine shoreline. And for 60 years, he'd been the town's beloved lake guardian. Free fish fries every summer, kids learning to swim in his cove, neighbors borrowing boats without asking. Grandpa treated that lake like a community resource. I spent every childhood summer here, learning about water rights while dock planks creaked under my feet and the scent of pine needles mixed with whatever fish Uncle Jim was cleaning. The property was incredible. Main house, guest cabins, boat launch, even the crumbling foundation of an 1890s mill that Grandpa always promised to restore next summer. That's when I met Brenda Hutchinson. And folks, this woman was a piece of work. 52 years old, self-appointed Millbrook Shores Community Standards Director, a title she made up herself. She'd moved from the Minneapolis suburbs 3 years earlier on a mission to elevate community standards, which apparently meant micromanaging everyone's mailbox height and deck stain color. Always in tennis whites despite never holding a racket, driving a white BMW SUV with community-first vanity plates. She had that special energy of someone who discovered the intoxicating power of HOA authority. She showed up exactly 1 week after I arrived, clipboard in hand, and that shark smile that screamed, "I'm about to ruin your day. We need to discuss your grandfather's informal arrangements with the community," she announced, standing in my doorway like she owned the place. The sound of papers rustling mixed with her perfume, the kind that costs $200 an ounce and smells like it's trying to cover up something rotten. Brenda whips out this 47-page community lake usage agreement requiring a $12,000 annual maintenance fee. She claimed lake access had been an implied easement that needed proper documentation now that ownership had transferred to an outsider. The way she said outsider made it clear she'd already decided I was the enemy. "Your grandfather was very cooperative with community needs," she purred. "I'm sure you'll want to continue that tradition." I politely declined, mentioning I was still reviewing Grandpa's documents. Her smile could have frozen the lake in July. The following weekend, I hosted a barbecue for 8 college friends. My first attempt at recreating those legendary gatherings Grandpa used to throw. We're having a blast until 2 p.m. when Hurricane Brenda storms onto my dock with laminated violation notices. "Sir, this community has standards," she declared, demanding a guest list like she was running Border Patrol. "Your grandfather understood appropriate boundaries." The smell of grilling burgers couldn't mask the awkward tension as my friends started packing up. Party over, thanks to the self-appointed lake police. That evening, feeling like I'd somehow failed Grandpa's memory, I decided to explore his study more thoroughly. Behind a bookshelf, I found a hidden panel, because apparently my grandfather was part librarian, part secret agent. Inside a cedar chest were original land deeds, surveyor maps, and water rights documentation dating back to the 1920s. One document made me grin like an idiot. Crystal Lake Water Rights Grant 1923, signed, notarized, filed with the county, granting my family exclusive ownership of the entire lake. You know what I learned from my engineering background? When someone makes claims about your property rights, the county courthouse records don't lie. Everything else is just hot air and wishful thinking. Brenda had been running a protection racket on property she didn't own, couldn't control, and had zero legal authority over. I realized I wasn't dealing with an overzealous neighbor. I was dealing with a con artist, and she just picked the wrong mark. From there, the story only got wilder. Fake cease and desist letters, forged HOA documents, secret fee collections totaling tens of thousands, neighbors who'd been paying for years under false pretenses, courthouse discoveries that the HOA never even existed legally, Brenda's escalating schemes to force development on my land, signature fraud on petitions, smear campaigns in the local paper and Facebook groups, vandalism caught on trail cameras, midnight trespassing with an unlicensed consultant, attempted bribery recorded on my phone, and finally the federal escalation. EPA notifications for protected watershed violations, FBI wire fraud investigations, and a dramatic arrest at the July 4th Community Festival I funded through Grandpa's legitimate conservation trust. Brenda thought she was stealing lakefront property for profit. Instead, she triggered federal protection that made the area more valuable and more protected than ever before. Her greed exposed a broader fraud network targeting rural communities, leading to prosecutions across 3 states. In the end, she pleaded guilty to felony charges, paid restitution, lost her house, and watched her family and reputation crumble. The community got full refunds plus interest, real conservation programs replaced her scams, and Grandpa's legacy lived on through accessible piers, kids' education events, annual festivals, and new state laws protecting inherited conservation properties. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just winning. It's building something honest and beautiful in place of the fraud. The sweetest irony. Brenda's entire power grab accidentally handed me the tools to become the community steward Grandpa always hoped someone would be. If you've got your own HOA nightmare story, drop in the comments. I bet you've dealt with something that would make Brenda look tame.